The transport shuttle descended through Glacis 7's atmosphere, and Marcus Chen pressed his face against the window. Below him stretched an endless expanse of white ice, broken only by the dark shapes of newly constructed buildings. This frozen world would be his home for the next 2 years. Marcus was nervous. This was his first off-world assignment, and he was joining a colony filled with alien species he had only seen in training videos. The Galactic Research Initiative had established this outpost to study rare crystal formations deep beneath the ice. Scientists from 12 different species had gathered here, and Marcus was just a human infrastructure engineer among them. The shuttle landed with a soft thud. Marcus grabbed his equipment bag and stepped out into the cold. Even through his thermal suit, he could feel the chill. The colony consisted of 15 buildings connected by elevated skyways that glowed with heating elements. Everything looked advanced and alien. "You must be the human engineer," a voice said behind him. Marcus turned to see a tall, blue-skinned Tharxian with 4 arms. "I am Velkoth, the colony administrator. Welcome to Glacis 7. "Thank you, sir," Marcus replied, shaking one of Velkoth's extended hands. "Your quarters are in Building 7. Report to the infrastructure department tomorrow morning. We have much work to do." Velkoth's tone was formal but not unfriendly. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He reviewed the colony's weather data on his tablet, studying atmospheric patterns and temperature readings. Something bothered him, though he couldn't quite identify what. The planet's magnetic field readings seemed unusual, and the binary star system created weather patterns unlike anything he had seen before. The next morning, Marcus met his new colleagues. There were the Quillari, massive bear-like creatures with thick fur and incredible strength. They laughed loudly and often, their voices booming through the workspace. The Vreen were smaller, with large heads and eyes that seemed to look through you. They communicated telepathically among themselves, but used translators for other species. There were also Drell, aquatic beings in specialized suits filled with water, and several other species Marcus was still learning to identify. "So, Earth finally sent us help," said Corval, the lead Quillari engineer. "What can humans do that our technology cannot?" Marcus hesitated. "I'm good at backup systems and emergency planning." The Quillari laughed, a sound like rolling thunder. "Backup systems? Look around you, human. We have force fields, energy shields, and power systems that have never failed. What backup do we need?" Over the following weeks, Marcus was assigned various tasks, but he kept returning to one idea. He wanted to dig tunnels through the ice, connecting all the buildings underground. He presented his proposal at a department meeting. "Tunnels?" Velkoth's 4 arms gestured in confusion. "We have perfectly functional skyways. They are heated, pressurized, and beautiful. Why would we need to dig through ice like primitive creatures?" "As a backup, sir," Marcus explained. "If something happens to the power grid or the skyways, nothing will happen," interrupted Zessa, a Vreen scientist. Her mental voice was sharp. "Our technology is proven across thousands of worlds. Your concern is unnecessary. We have Tamang Withers Liven. I'm Will Grang." But Marcus couldn't shake his worry. He studied the weather data every night. The atmospheric pressure patterns were building in ways that reminded him of something from Earth, though on a much larger scale. He approached Velkoth privately. "Sir, I'd like permission to start digging test tunnels. Just as a precaution. I'll do it in my free time, using minimal resources." Velkoth considered this. "If it makes you feel useful, proceed. But do not let it interfere with your assigned duties." Marcus started digging. He used a combination of human mining techniques and borrowed alien equipment. The ice was hard, but workable. He began with a tunnel from the main research building to the residential quarters, then branched out to other structures. He lined the tunnels with heated polymer materials that held warmth without requiring much power. Every 50 meters, he installed an emergency supply cache, thermal blankets, oxygen canisters, dried food, and water. Word spread quickly through the colony. The human was digging tunnels. The reaction was universal amusement. "Look at the mole man," Corval would joke whenever Marcus passed by, his suit covered in ice dust, digging his little holes. "Does Earth have no better engineers to send us?" Even the other humans at the colony seemed embarrassed by Marcus's project. Dr. Sarah Kim, a xenobiologist, pulled him aside one day. "Marcus, you're making us look backward. The aliens already think humans are primitive. Maybe focus on learning their technology instead?" But Marcus continued. Something deep in his gut told him these tunnels mattered. He created detailed maps with tactile markers that could be felt in darkness. He installed bioluminescent panels that glowed without electricity. He tested every meter of his tunnels, making sure the structural integrity was perfect. 3 months passed. Marcus's tunnel network now connected all 15 colony buildings. The aliens had stopped mocking him openly. Now they simply ignored his hobby. Nobody used the tunnels. The skyways were faster, warmer, and more comfortable. Nobody except Marcus noticed that the atmospheric readings were becoming increasingly erratic. Storm systems were forming in patterns that didn't match any of the alien predictive models. Marcus tried to raise concerns, but after his tunnel obsession, nobody took his warnings seriously. The sky above Glacis 7 was changing. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon, growing thicker each day. Marcus stood at the entrance to his tunnel system, watching the storm approach. His hands trembled slightly. Not from cold, but from a certainty he couldn't explain. 4 months into the colony's operation, Marcus's tunnel network was complete. He had spent countless hours underground, perfecting every detail. The main tunnel ran like a spine through the colony, with smaller passages branching off to each building. Emergency chambers were carved into the ice at strategic points, reinforced with triple-layered insulation. Marcus had even installed old-fashioned hand-cranked radios in weatherproof boxes every 100 meters. "Why radios?" asked Jen, a young human technician who sometimes helped Marcus. "We have comm devices in our suits. Electromagnetic interference can disable suit comms," Marcus explained, tightening a bolt on a radio housing. "These will work no matter what." Jen shook her head but smiled. "You think of everything, don't you?" Marcus didn't answer. He was staring at his tablet, reviewing the latest atmospheric data. The numbers made his stomach tight with worry. That evening, Marcus requested an emergency meeting with the colony's Science Council. Velkoth granted him 15 minutes. The council chamber was impressive, with holographic displays floating in the air. Representatives from each major species sat in a circle. Marcus felt very small as he stood in the center. "Administrator Velkoth, council members," Marcus began, his voice steady despite his nerves. "I've been monitoring the atmospheric conditions for 4 months. There's a pattern developing that concerns me deeply." He activated his presentation. Charts and graphs appeared in the air, showing pressure systems, electromagnetic readings, and temperature fluctuations. "As you can see, there's a massive storm system building. The energy signatures suggest it could generate extreme electromagnetic interference. Our power grids and shield systems might be vulnerable." Corval snorted. "Might be vulnerable? Human? Our energy shields have protected colonies on worlds with plasma storms. This is an ice planet. Cold wind and snow are nothing." "It's not just wind and snow," Marcus insisted. "The binary star system creates unique magnetic field interactions with the planet's core. I think." "You think?" Zessa's mental voice cut through his words like a knife. "We do not operate on thoughts. Human. We operate on data. Our predictive models have analyzed this planet for 2 years before the colony was established. They show a moderate storm approaching. Category 3 at most. But the models might not account for the models." Velkoth interrupted gently but firmly, "are based on data from over 3,000 planetary systems. They have never been significantly wrong. Your concern is noted, Marcus Chen, but I believe you are overreacting. Dr. Raxus, an elderly Quillari scientist, leaned forward. Tell me, young human, how many alien worlds have you studied? This is my first off-world assignment, sir, Marcus admitted. And how many storms have our predictive systems successfully forecasted? Marcus's shoulders slumped. I don't know the exact number. 47,612, Dr. Raxus said, with 99.4% accuracy. Your instincts are admirable, but trust in proven science. The meeting ended. Marcus walked back to his quarters, through one of the heated skyways. Through the transparent walls, he could see the dark clouds gathering on the horizon. They looked angry, swirling with unusual colors, deep purples and sickly greens mixed with the gray. The other humans at the colony started avoiding Marcus. Word had spread about his paranoid presentation to the council. In the cafeteria, conversations would quiet when he entered. Even Dr. Sarah Kim stopped making eye contact. Marcus threw himself back into the tunnels. If nobody would listen to his warnings, he would prepare as best he could. He doubled the emergency supplies in each cache. He added more thermal blankets, more oxygen reserves, more food packets. He widened some of the narrower passages, thinking about how the large Quillari might need to move through them quickly. Marcus, you need to stop, Jen said one day, finding him installing additional lighting in a tunnel section. People are talking. They think you're losing it. Let them talk, Marcus replied, not looking up from his work. The colony psychiatrist wants to evaluate you. Velkoth is concerned you're developing off-world anxiety syndrome. Marcus finally stopped working. He turned to face Jen, and she was surprised to see how tired he looked. His eyes had dark circles, and his hands were calloused from weeks of manual labor. Jen. I grew up in Colorado. My family lived in the mountains. When I was 12, a storm hit that the Weather Service said would be minor. My father didn't trust it. He prepared our house, stocked supplies, and got us ready. What happened? Jen asked quietly. The storm lasted 6 days. It buried our town under 4 meters of snow. Power was out for a week. 17 people died in houses that weren't prepared. We survived because my father trusted his instincts over the predictions. Marcus returned to his work. I don't care what people think of me, Jen. And if you're wrong, then I wasted 4 months digging tunnels that nobody will ever use. I can live with that. Jen watched him work for a moment longer, then picked up a tool. Show me what needs to be done. Together, they worked through the night. Above them, through meters of ice and rock, the sky continued to darken. The storm was coming closer. The colony's sensors registered it as a Category 3 event, significant, but manageable. The aliens went about their work, confident in their technology. Only Marcus couldn't sleep. He lay in his quarters, listening to the wind beginning to howl outside. It sounded different from the usual winds. Deeper, angrier, more alive. His tablet showed 72 hours until the storm's predicted arrival. Marcus got up and began making final preparations. He created laminated maps of the tunnel system and distributed them to every building. Most aliens tossed them aside, but a few humans quietly kept theirs. The sky was now completely dark, even during what should have been daytime. The binary stars were hidden behind clouds that seemed to boil and churn. Marcus stood at a viewport, watching the approaching darkness. Velkoth appeared beside him. You are still worried? Yes, sir. The shields are at full power. The backup generators are tested and ready. We are prepared. Marcus wanted to argue, but he simply nodded. I hope you're right, sir. Note. So do I, Marcus Chen, Velkoth said quietly. So do I. The storm was 48 hours away. The storm arrived early. Marcus was in Tunnel Section 7, checking supply levels, when the first warning alarms sounded. He grabbed his tablet, and checked the time. The storm wasn't supposed to hit for another 18 hours. His heart began racing. Above ground, the colony's automated systems detected the change. Wind speeds jumped from 40 kilometers per hour to 200 in less than 5 minutes. The temperature dropped 30 degrees in seconds. Emergency protocols activated across all buildings. Velkoth's voice came through the colony-wide communication system. All personnel, remain in your current locations. The storm has arrived ahead of schedule. Stay calm. Our shields are activating now. Marcus ran to the nearest tunnel access point that had a surface viewport. What he saw made his blood turn cold. The sky had turned completely white, not the white of snow or clouds, but a strange, electric white that seemed to pulse with energy. Lightning arced between the clouds in colors Marcus had never seen: purple, green, and a sickly yellow that made his eyes hurt to look at. The wind carried ice crystals that moved in impossible patterns, swirling upward and sideways as much as downward. Then the electromagnetic pulse hit. Every light in the viewport room flickered. Marcus's tablet screen went black, then rebooted. Through the window, he saw the colony's energy shields shimmer and destabilize. The beautiful blue domes of protective force that surrounded each building wavered like reflections in disturbed water. No, 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 Marcus whispered. The shields failed. One by one, the protective barriers collapsed. The heated skyways connecting the buildings began to fracture immediately. The transparent materials, designed to withstand normal cold, weren't built for the thermal shock of temperatures plummeting to minus 100 degrees Celsius in seconds. Cracks spread like spider webs through the elevated walkways. Marcus heard the screams through the comm system before it died completely. Then, silence. The electromagnetic interference was overwhelming. All wireless communication stopped working. The colony's main power grid, stressed beyond its capacity trying to maintain the failing shields, shut down to prevent permanent damage. Emergency backup power kicked in, but Marcus could see from the dimming lights that even that was struggling. The storm was doing something the alien predictive models had never anticipated. The binary star system's magnetic fields, the planet's unusual core composition, and the storm's intensity had created a perfect combination. An atmospheric phenomenon that fed on electrical energy. The more power the colony used, the stronger the storm became. Marcus stood frozen for only a moment. Then, his training took over. He grabbed the emergency radio from the wall and began cranking the handle. The device crackled to life. "This is Marcus Chen. Is anyone reading me? Over." Static filled the air. Then a faint voice responded. "Marcus? This is Jen. I'm in the residential building. What's happening?" "The shields failed. The skyways are breaking apart. Listen carefully. I need you to find the tunnel entrance in the residential building. Basement level. Storage room 3. Can you do that?" I think so." "Marcus, it's getting really cold here. The heating system isn't working properly." "I know. Get to the tunnel entrance. Bring everyone you can find. I'm going to coordinate evacuation through the tunnel system." Marcus switched frequencies and tried again. "This is Marcus Chen, broadcasting on Emergency Channel 7. All personnel. The surface connections are compromised. You need to access the tunnel system immediately. Each building has an entrance in the basement level. Follow the illuminated markers." More voices crackled through the radio. Confusion. Fear. Some aliens didn't even know the tunnels existed. Others couldn't remember where the entrances were located. Marcus grabbed the laminated tunnel map from his pocket and began directing people. "Building 4. Your entrance is in the northwest storage area, behind the water purification tanks. Building 9. Check the maintenance bay on the lower level." Through the viewport, he watched as pieces of the skyways began falling. The metal framework twisted and broke in the extreme cold. What had been beautiful elevated walkways were becoming deadly debris. Human. A familiar mental voice pierced through the interference. It was Zessa, the Vreen scientist. Her telepathy was being disrupted by the electromagnetic chaos, making her thoughts feel fractured and panicked. Our building. Losing. Heat. What do we do? Losing. 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 Losing heat. What do we do? Basement level, Zessa. Find the tunnel entrance. There are signs. I put tactile markers specifically for emergencies. The Quillari, too large for tunnels. Marcus's mind raced. He had widened some passages, but not all of them. Route them through tunnel branch 3. It's wider. I'll meet them there and guide them. He grabbed his emergency pack and ran through the tunnels. The heated polymer lining was working perfectly. The temperature here was stable, almost comfortable compared to the chaos above. The bioluminescent panels cast a soft blue glow, and the air quality was good. Everything Marcus had built was functioning exactly as designed. But would it be enough? Marcus reached the main research building's tunnel entrance and climbed the access ladder. The building was in chaos. Aliens from multiple species were huddled together, their breath visible in the rapidly cooling air. The emergency lights were failing, and frost was forming on the walls. "Everyone, listen to me," Marcus shouted. "I know you're scared. I know most of you have never been in these tunnels. But right now, they're the safest place in the colony. We need to evacuate in an orderly fashion." Corval, the massive Quillari engineer who had mocked Marcus for months, stepped forward. His fur was already covered in frost. "Human. We were wrong about you. Tell us what to do." Marcus felt no satisfaction in being right. Only determination. "Larger species, you're going through the main tunnel. Smaller species can use the branch passages. They're faster. Everyone take one thermal blanket from the emergency supplies as you enter. Stay together. Help each other." Dr. Raxus, the elderly Quillari scientist, moved slowly toward the tunnel entrance. "How long will this storm last?" Marcus met his eyes. "I don't know, sir, but we're going to survive it. All of us." The evacuation began. Marcus stood at the tunnel entrance, counting people as they descended. 63 aliens in this building alone. The colony had 247 inhabitants spread across 15 buildings. He had to get them all to safety. The wind outside roared like a living thing. The building shook. But deep below, in the tunnels that everyone had mocked, there was shelter. There was hope. Marcus grabbed his hand crank radio. "All stations. Report your status. How many people have reached the tunnels?" Responses came in slowly, crackling through the interference. Some buildings had successfully evacuated. Others were still trying to find the tunnel entrances. 2 buildings hadn't responded at all. "I'm going after them," Marcus said to Jen, who had arrived to help coordinate. "Marcus, you can't go back to the surface. The storm. 2 buildings. That's at least 30 people. I'm not leaving them." He pulled on extra thermal layers and checked his oxygen supply. Through the building's windows, the world outside had become a white hell. Visibility was 0. The wind speed was now over 400 kilometers per hour. Surface temperature had dropped to minus 120 degrees. Marcus looked at the tunnel map one more time, memorizing the routes. Then he headed into the storm. Marcus emerged from Building 6 into the storm, and immediately understood he had made a terrible mistake. The cold hit him like a physical blow. Even through his thermal suit's multiple layers, he could feel the deadly temperature trying to reach his skin. The wind was so powerful, it knocked him sideways. Ice crystals pelted his faceplate, creating a sound like continuous gunfire. He couldn't see more than 2 meters ahead. But he had no choice. Buildings 12 and 14 hadn't responded. People were trapped there. Marcus activated the guide rope system he had installed between buildings, a backup for the skyways that nobody had thought was necessary. His gloved hands found the thick cable, and he began pulling himself forward, one agonizing meter at a time. The journey to Building 12 should have taken 3 minutes. It took 20. When Marcus finally reached the entrance, his hands were numb despite the heated gloves. He forced the emergency door open and stumbled inside. The building was dark except for failing emergency lights. "Hello?" Marcus called out. "Is anyone here?" Roop. Movement in the shadows. A group of Drell, the aquatic aliens, huddled together in their water-filled suits. Their translator spoke with a weak battery. "Human. We cannot. Basement too far. Water freezing in suits." Marcus's heart sank. The Drell's suits were designed for their aquatic bodies, but the extreme cold was causing the water to freeze. They were moving slowly, almost paralyzed. "How many of you?" Marcus asked. 7. Marcus thought quickly. He couldn't carry 7 Drell through the storm to another building. But the tunnel entrance was just 2 floors down. "I'm going to get you to the tunnels. Can you move at all?" "Slowly." "Then we move slowly." "Come on." Marcus led them to the stairwell. The Drell moved like they were in a dream, their suits crackling with ice. It took 15 minutes to descend 2 floors. Marcus kept talking to them, keeping them focused and awake. "Almost there. Just a bit further. The tunnels are warm. You'll be safe." When they finally reached the tunnel entrance, Marcus helped each Drell down the ladder. As they entered the heated tunnel, the ice on their suits began melting. Their movements became smoother. The translator spoke again, stronger now. "You saved us. Thank you, human." "Get to Chamber 4, Marcus said. "There are thermal blankets and emergency heating units. Go now." Marcus climbed back up. 1 building down, 1 more to go. The journey to Building 14 was even worse. The storm had intensified. Marcus's guide rope was now covered in ice, making it harder to grip. Twice, he almost lost his hold and had to grab tight to avoid being blown away. Building 14 housed the main laboratory. When Marcus entered, he found chaos. 23 aliens of different species were trapped. The Quillari were too confused about which tunnel route to take. The Vreen were panicking, their telepathy scrambled by the electromagnetic interference. Several smaller species were huddled in corners, frozen with fear. "Everyone, look at me," Marcus shouted. His voice cut through the panic. "I know you're scared. I know this seems impossible, but I've prepared for this. The tunnels will save us, but we need to move now. This building's heating will fail completely in less than an hour." Corval stepped forward. "Human, some of our people are injured." Marcus saw 2 Quillari lying on the floor, clearly in pain. "Can they walk at all?" "With help." "Then we help them. Everyone, pair up. Larger species help smaller species. We're going down together." The evacuation was difficult. The injured Quillari had to be supported by 2 others. The stairwell was narrow for their large bodies. Marcus went first, lighting the way with his helmet lamp and calling out warnings about steps and turns. When they reached the tunnel entrance, Marcus faced a new problem. The injured Quillari couldn't fit through the standard entrance. He had to direct them to Branch 3 entrance, which was 50 meters away through a service corridor. By now, the building's temperature had dropped to minus 40 degrees. "Move quickly," Marcus urged. "Stay together." They made it. All 23 aliens descended into the tunnels. Marcus was the last one down, and as he pulled the access hatch closed behind him, he heard a tremendous crack. Part of Building 14's roof was collapsing under the weight of accumulated ice. They had gotten out just in time. In the tunnels, Marcus did a quick count through his radio network. "All stations, report final numbers." The responses came in. Building 1, 42, evacuated. Building 2, 31, evacuated. Building 3, 18, evacuated. The list continued. Total count? Marcus asked Jen, who was coordinating from Chamber 1. 247, Jen responded. Marcus, that's everyone. Every single person in the colony is accounted for, and in the tunnels. Marcus leaned against the tunnel wall, exhausted. His hands were shaking from cold and adrenaline. But everyone was alive. Now came the hard part, keeping them alive. The tunnels were holding well, but they had to organize 247 beings from 12 different species, each with different environmental needs. The Drell needed humidity for their suits. The Quillari needed extra space. The Vreen needed quiet areas because the electromagnetic interference was giving them severe headaches. Marcus moved through the tunnels, organizing people. He assigned the larger emergency chambers to groups based on their needs. He distributed supplies from his carefully stocked caches: thermal blankets, food packets, water, medical supplies. Velkoth found Marcus in Tunnel Section 4. The administrator's forearms moved in a gesture of deep respect. Marcus Chen, I owe you an apology. We all do. You tried to warn us. Apologies later, Marcus said, though not unkindly. Right now, I need your help. We need to set up a rotation system for the heating units. We can't run them all at once, it'll drain our power reserves too quickly. Velkoth nodded. Tell me what to do. For the next 6 hours, Marcus coordinated the underground refuge. He taught the aliens how to use the hand crank radios. He showed them how the bioluminescent panels worked. He explained the ventilation system that brought fresh air from deep thermal vents. Dr. Raxus approached Marcus with wonder in his eyes. Human, these tunnels. You thought of everything. The tactile markers, the emergency supplies, even the different passage widths for different body types. How did you know? Marcus was too tired to be modest. On Earth, we've survived thousands of years of disasters. Floods, earthquakes, hurricanes, blizzards. We learned to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. It's not about superior technology. It's about understanding that nature doesn't care how advanced you are. Above them, the storm raged. The wind howled like a wounded beast. The temperature had dropped to minus 150 degrees. The electromagnetic interference was so intense that it created visible aurora effects in the atmosphere. But below the surface, in the tunnels that everyone had mocked, 247 beings from across the galaxy were safe, warm, and alive. Marcus finally allowed himself to rest. He sat down in Chamber 1, accepted a warm drink from Jen, and closed his eyes. The storm would last at least another day, maybe 2, but they would survive it. All because of tunnels that everyone had laughed at. All because one human had refused to trust technology over instinct. 37 hours after it began, the storm finally broke. Marcus was in Tunnel Section 2 when Jen's voice crackled through the hand crank radio. Marcus, the wind speed is dropping. The electromagnetic interference is clearing. I think it's ending. Marcus climbed to the nearest surface access point and carefully opened the hatch. Cold air rushed in, but it was different now, calmer. The howling had stopped. He climbed up and looked outside. The world had been transformed. Ice covered everything in thick layers. The skyways were completely destroyed. Twisted metal skeletons frozen in mid-collapse. Several buildings had sustained damage, their walls cracked and covered in frost patterns that looked almost beautiful. The landscape was buried under meters of new ice and snow, but the sky was clearing. The strange white color was fading, replaced by the normal gray of Glacis 7's atmosphere. The binary stars were becoming visible again, their light weak but present. It's over, Marcus said into the radio. The storm is over. The word spread through the tunnels. Cheers erupted from multiple chambers. Aliens who had been terrified for over a day were crying with relief. Some were laughing. Others were simply sitting in stunned silence. Velkoth organized assessment teams. Slowly, carefully, groups began emerging from the tunnels to inspect the damage. The colony was devastated. Power grids were destroyed. Communication arrays were gone. The beautiful heated skyways were beyond repair. Supply buildings had collapsed. Equipment was buried under ice. But the main structures were intact. And more importantly, every single colonist had survived. The rescue ships arrived 2 days later. The Galactic Colonial Authority had lost all contact with Glacis 7 during the storm and had feared the worst. When they landed and found all 247 colonists alive and relatively healthy, there was confusion. "How?" asked Commander Thelzahn, a senior Quillari officer. "Our models predicted 90% casualties in a storm of this magnitude. How did you all survive?" "Oh." Velkoth gestured toward Marcus, who was helping to organize supply distribution. "That human and his tunnels saved us all. Ever." Commander Thelzahn listened to the full story. His expression changed from skepticism to amazement to something like shame. A tunnel system. Basic. Low-tech. And it worked when all our advanced systems failed. Not just worked, Dr. Raxus added. It was perfect. Every detail was considered. The human thought about things we had forgotten in our centuries of technological advancement. The investigation that followed was extensive. The Galactic Colonial Authority sent teams to study both the storm and Marcus's response to it. What they discovered changed everything. The storm had been a unique phenomenon, a combination of factors that occurred perhaps once every 1,000 years on planets like Glacis 7. The alien predictive models had missed it because they had never encountered this exact combination of magnetic fields, atmospheric conditions, and stellar activity. Their technology was advanced, but it wasn't prepared for something completely new. Marcus's approach had been different. He hadn't tried to predict the unpredictable. Instead, he had prepared for worst-case scenarios using methods that didn't rely on power or complex systems. Methods that Earth's harsh environment had taught humanity over millennia. 6 months later, Marcus stood in a conference chamber on the Galactic Colonial Authority's headquarters station. Before him sat representatives from 40 different species. He was nervous, more nervous than he had been during the storm. "Marcus Chen," began High Administrator Vormak. "Your actions on Glacis 7 have prompted a complete review of our colonial safety protocols. We have been too dependent on technology, too confident in our predictive models, too dismissive of simpler solutions." Vormak activated a holographic display. It showed colonial designs with extensive underground infrastructure. "These are the new Chen protocols, named in your honor. All frontier colonies will now be required to include low-tech backup systems. Tunnels, physical supply caches, non-electronic communication methods. Everything you implemented on Glacis 7. The representatives nodded in agreement. Several species that had initially mocked Marcus now looked at him with respect. "Furthermore," Vormak continued, "we are offering you a position as Chief of Colonial Safety Design. You would travel the galaxy, helping to establish new colonies and retrofit existing ones with proper emergency infrastructure." Marcus was overwhelmed. I'm honored, but I'm just an engineer. I'm not special." Corval, who had traveled to the station specifically to support Marcus, laughed his booming laugh. "Not special? Human, you saved 247 lives because you understood something we had forgotten. That makes you very special indeed." Dr. Raxus stood up slowly. "Marcus Chen, may I say something?" The elderly Quillari scientist's voice was gentle. "For thousands of years, my species has explored the galaxy. We have seen countless wonders. We have technology that seems like magic, but we became complacent. We forgot that the universe is dangerous, unpredictable, and unforgiving. He gestured toward Marcus. You come from Earth, a world that tried to kill your species at every turn. Storms, earthquakes, predators, disease. Your planet made you paranoid, yes, but it also made you survivors. You learned to respect nature's power. You learned to prepare for disasters. You learned that sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution. The room was silent. Dr. Raxus continued. What you call paranoia, we should call wisdom. What you call primitive, we should call reliable. Humanity's greatest contribution to the galaxy may not be some advanced technology. It may be teaching us to remember what we forgot, that survival requires more than confidence and computers. It requires humility and preparation. Marcus felt tears in his eyes. For months, he had been mocked and dismissed. Now, the entire Galactic Colonial Authority was adopting his methods. Zessa, the Vreen scientist, approached him after the meeting. Her mental voice was warm, completely different from the sharp tone she had used before. I laughed at your tunnels, human. I called you primitive. I was wrong, and I am sorry. You don't need to apologize, Marcus said. You trusted your data. It was logical. Logic without wisdom is incomplete, Zessa replied. You taught us that. Marcus accepted the position. Over the next 5 years, he traveled to 37 colonies, implementing Chen protocols. Each time, he faced initial resistance. Each time, he patiently explained his methods. And each time, when disasters struck as they inevitably did on frontier worlds, the colonies survived because of the simple, reliable systems he had put in place. The tunnels on Glacis 7 were never removed. Instead, they were expanded and improved. A memorial plaque was installed at the main entrance, with text in 40 different languages. It read simply, "In memory of the storm of 55. 247 souls saved by preparation, humility, and one human who dared to dig when others dismissed him. May we never forget that advancement means nothing without survival." Velkoth visited the memorial often. He would stand there, remembering the terror of the storm and the salvation of the tunnels. He thought about how close they had come to disaster because they had forgotten a fundamental truth. Nature doesn't negotiate. Technology can fail. But basic preparation, simple solutions, and respect for the environment, these things never go out of style. The galaxy had learned an important lesson from humanity. Sometimes, the most advanced civilization is the one that remembers how to survive like their ancestors did, with planning, with caution, with tunnels dug deep into the ground, lined with simple heating elements and stocked with basic supplies. Sometimes, the future is built by remembering the past. And sometimes, the person everyone laughs at becomes the person who saves everyone. Marcus Chen's tunnels remained a testament to human wisdom, born from surviving on a dangerous world. And across the galaxy, on dozens of frontier colonies, engineers dug similar tunnels, following the protocols named after a human who refused to trust advanced technology over basic common sense. The aliens never laughed at tunnels again.